Hello, I'm Hey Enlin and today I'm going to make an introduction about tort of nuisance. Nuisance is a legal action to amend harm caused from the use of one's property. It is an unreasonable, unwarranted and unlawful use of property or land which could cause damage, injury or inconvenience to an individual or public or society. Generally, the nuisance can include smell, noise, pollution, and so on. If the nuisance had interfered to an individual or public's peaceful or quiet use of their property or land, the property's owner could ordering the person that causing the nuisance to stop or limit the activity or action. A nuisance may occur either in either property or physical discomfort. Property. In the case of a nuisance with respect to the property, any sensible injury to the property will be enough to support an action for the damages. Physical discomfort. In the arising of physical discomfort, there have two element or condition required, which is, exceed of the natural course of enjoyment of the property, and, interfering with the ordinary of human existence. Exceed of the natural course of enjoyment of the property is, the usage by the third party should out of the natural course of enjoyment from one party, while interfering with the ordinary of human existence is, the behavior of the third party should be caused one party discomfort and would not be able to put up or tolerate with the enjoyment. There have two essential of nuisance. First is wrongful act. Wrongful act is an act where a nuisance must be wrongful or unlawful interference with a person or his or her property or interest. Second is damages and loss. It is a substantial interference caused a person feel inconvenience or discomfort. There have two types of nuisance, which is private nuisance and public nuisance. Private nuisance. Private nuisance is a civil wrong. Means there is an unreasonable or unlawful interference with a person's interest or enjoyment of land or property. To determining a nuisance, the court will balance both parties' rights to enjoy the property or land as they wish. The interference can be in various sides such as noise, smell, sight, smoke or any others that could be led an individual to feel discomfort physically. For example, a person is doing something in his own land, which he is lawfully entitled to do it. But he doesn't know that act will become a nuisance to his neighbor's interest or land such as damage or loss. So, the tort of private nuisance is formed. Here is the example of private nuisance. Marcus is playing drum on his property. The drum beat was made his neighbor, Debbie, feeling noise and angry. The private nuisance was formed due to Marcus playing drum on his own property, but he doesn't know that the drum beat will interferencing his neighbor. Second type of nuisance is public nuisance. Public nuisance is as criminal wrong. It is an unreasonable interference with the public rights to the property. The interference may be formed where the acts could seriously affect with the enjoyment of general public such on health, safety or comfort. The public nuisance also determined as interference with the public property and public rights. In most public nuisance laws, an individual could not seek the method to stop the interference's activity, unless an exception under state or local law applies. According to most laws, due to the nature of public nuisances, only a public agency could sue, stop or remove the activity. For example, an industry had emission a large amount of toxic gas to the public causes pollution. Thus, this act may be caused physical discomfort with the general public such as cough, dry eye, headache and so on. So, the public agency could sue the industry. This is the example of public nuisance. The factory had emission a large amount of toxic gas. This action had been interference the enjoyment, rights, and interest of the public. It is because the general public was feeling discomfort physically. The public agency can sue the factory to restrain related activities. This is how the public nuisance formed. Here is the differences between private nuisance and public nuisance. Element that considered as private nuisance are an interference with the enjoyment or loss of his or her property. Such an unreasonable interference. And the last is the interference had caused an individual damage. While the element that considered as public nuisance are sufferer must show the presence of any injury which is higher degree than other public. Such a direct injury and not just a consequential injury to the public or society. And the last is the injury must be shown to have a huge effect to public or society. There have three legal responsibilities, which is fault, substantial interference, and reasonableness of defendant's conduct. Fault means the defendant intentionally or negligently interfered with the plaintiff's enjoyment and rights of the land or property. Another situation is the defendant continued the action or activity after learn of that action may be harming to the plaintiff's property. Substantial interference. Substantial interference is to establish responsibility under a tort of nuisance. The interference with the sufferer's property must be substantial. Determination of substantial interference must be fairly straightforward where the physical condition of the property or land had been affected. An action or activity caused on personal discomfort or inconvenience also determined as substantial interference. Reasonableness of defendant's conduct is the interference with the plaintiff's property is substantial where a determination had been made unreasonable for the plaintiff to bear it or to bear it without components. It known as a balancing process which weighing the respective benefit of both parties. The law recognizes that the activities must suit to a certain degree such in matter industry. The nature of harm is balanced against the burden of preventing the harm of the conduct. There have two types of defenses, which is prescription and statutory authority. Prescription is a special kind of defense. If a nuisance has been peacefully and openly going on without any interference, then the defense of prescription is available to the party. For example, Sean continues to do an act on Jane's property or land for about 20 years or above. Thus, Sean may acquire a legal right because the period for legalizing a granted permission is presumed to be 20 years only. Statutory authority is when the act has been permitted under the authority that given by the statutory authority. That's mean it is a complete defense. There has no liable need to be held by the person who in charge. For example, if a nuisance had been caused by the particular act of Harry, there wouldn't have any liability that Harry needs to hold, because he is done under the given statute. There have three types of remedies. First is damages. Second is injunction or abatement. And the third is self-help. Damages is a sum paid for the sufferer or claimant by the defendant to remedy the loss of enjoyment, injury and physical discomfort of the sufferer, such as money. Injunction or abatement is a drastic remedy and it may be applied under certain circumstances. An injunction could order another party to stop, refrain, or remove from doing a specific action or activity. In order to receive an injunction, the sufferer must be able to show that he or she may suffer harm if the nuisance continues. The last remedies is self-help. Self-help is available under limited circumstances. Sufferers that interfere by a nuisance can also settle in self-help. Self-help means that you have a permit to remove the nuisance without harming anyone or anything. If the sufferer is going to stop the nuisance property that owned by someone else, he or she has to give a reasonable notice. The conclusion is, the concept of nuisance arises commonly in everyone's daily life. Therefore, the tort of nuisance is the safeguard of our enjoyment, rights, and interest, so that we could enjoy our interest or property anywhere and anytime. Here is a Q&A section. The question is, If the railway company had authorized by the local government to run railway train on the track, due to the noise and vibration that caused by the running of railway train, the property that surround with the railway was under value, would the railway company need to be held liable? That's all for the tort of nuisance. Thank you for watching.